I have been playing so much Guild Wars 2. I have still been playing some ESO, but I have just been playing Guild Wars 2 basically almost nonstop. For all my gaming time, obviously I still have real life stuff. I can't play Guild Wars 2 24/7, but for all of my time that I give myself for gaming, and that's, you know, I, I, I just other games keep falling by the wayside so that I can have more time in Guild Wars 2. Um, End of Dragons isn't even out yet. It's not even here yet, and I'm just too excited about the content that there is and that I am already doing. I finished my legendary cloth armor. I am working on Hope. I have been doing the Return to achievements and the Return to Dragons achievements, events, and stuff. I have been catching up on the Icebrood Saga storyline. I have been doing like world metas and world bosses and some fractals and just having so much fun. Um, it's interesting because I'm not bored waiting for End of Dragons. I'm like, am I going to be able to get everything done before End of Dragons? I um
Let's see the color of your coin.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get everything done before End of Dragons. I really don't, but it's so fun and exciting. There's so much content to do. And the good thing about Guild Wars 2 is if you take a break, you come back, your gear is
Accelerating!
still there, your stuff's still there. You can just dive in and play, and there's no limitations on that for you to have the fun. Um, you're not constantly pursuing some new gear cap level. That's just going to change again in a couple of months anyway.
Accelerating!
Like, it's just that good. You can just show up and do so much stuff just as someone showing up. It's really been nice playing and everything, watching gradually as End of Dragons gets closer, more and more new people coming to the game or returning people coming back to the game. Um, it's interesting because you used to see metas where everybody just did their thing and it was like, okay, whatever. And now you see metas that are actually failing sometimes or that are struggling because there's so many new people that they don't know what to do,
There's the power!
that they're impacting whether it succeeds. And that's awesome to me. Like, some people are so used to winning everything that they forgot what it's like to not win everything. And that's really exciting to me. Like, I really, really have been enjoying that. I am hoping that, when the expansion comes out, the DirectX 11 stuff really works out because, the performance issues would still be nice to fix. Um, Other than that, though, I must say, I'm just really, really enjoying myself. Everything that I'm doing, all of the, in game events, all of the holiday events, all of the everything across the board has just been spot on with fun and good, happy mode. Um, I really don't have any complaints other than what they're already trying to fix. um, I'm so excited for the expansion, but I'm also just excited to be playing now, and I don't run out of stuff to do in this game. The other thing is man, I have played almost every MMORPG that's ever existed. Like almost all of them. I've tried them, and I always end up coming back to this game. And it's not just that it has a special place in my heart, although it does. I met the loves of my life here, but it's also this game just does something so much better, and it's weird to me because it's so much older that it still to this day is so much better. Like, this game is basically a decade old, and there's games that are coming out even in the last couple of years that just really, really lack the refinement and the playability and the replayability for their content. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. And one of the big ones is what I said earlier. You can come back to the game, your gear still works. There's no limitations for you being able to go have fun, dive into stuff, and explore. You can just go. And I think that that trust, that security that you have as a Guild Wars 2 player, that if you go play something else, it's not the end of the world. You can always come back and this will always be here for you, is a big thing. But there's some other things too that are more gameplay related that I really think are important. One of them is there's such a solid balance between tab targeting and action combat for the combat system in this game. And the way that you build your builds, you create your, you know, action bar and you set up yourself really has withstood the test of time. The combat in this game is still fun, it's still interesting, and it's a decade later. And it's still a balancing act between action, combat, and traditional tab targeting that I have not seen other MMOs accomplish as well or as polished as this game has. It's just other games don't seem to keep up with it. The other big thing is, for some reason, I'm not really sure why, but games really used to be like, oh yeah, let's do 50-man content. Let's do this big, giant content. And they started stepping away from it. And part of it I know was technological reasons. It just wasn't advanced enough at the time to continue that trend. And another part was the desperation to put it in instanced content, which means you had to get a group together to enter the instance and do it. And Guild Wars 2 took and embraced the massively multiplayer feeling that an MMO RPG was meant to have in a way that functions. And a lot of MMORPGs got smaller and smaller and smaller feeling over time. Like, a lot of the content feels like in most games you really shouldn't be doing it with more than, say, 20 people or 5 people or whatever it is. Even like when you're running around in the open world, you go do something and like 3 people could take it out together. And it's not that big of a deal and whatever. And there is content in Guild Wars 2 that is that way. Absolutely. There's plenty of 5-man content, 10-man content, kind of feeling stuff. Absolutely. There's instanced content of that stuff. And even in running around an open world, you get to certain events, yeah, 3 of you can take it out, no problem. But having 50 people do chalk rent versus only like 25 people doing chalk rent is such a massive difference in being able to win and effectively get your loot. It's so striking. Even the difference between, you know, having an army playing and that you're part of that army playing versus running around with a little squad of like 5 people playing is a massive, impactful difference in how it feels to play a game. Guild Wars 2 still makes map-wide metas, still makes content where the goal of the content is cooperative gameplay between tons of players all at the same time pushing together. You can't get map completion without other people working together with you. You can't get to that last boss and get those circle of treasure chests without being huge clusters of people working together, learning the game together, and it encourages you to have a more solid community. It encourages you to be less of a jerk to other players. It encourages you to teach new players and be more patient with them, and encourages a more solid community overall than some MMOs have. I won't say all MMOs because I've definitely encountered some good communities in some games, but like the community in general in Guild Wars 2 seems pretty decent, partially because of the gameplay style that is encouraged in this game and the playing as a group. Even when you're solo playing, you're not grouped up with anyone. You're still running to a big giant boss, and it takes different people doing different mechanics on different parts of the map to take out the boss. And it's impactful. It feels weighty when you play it. It feels like like what you're doing is just you, but also if you weren't there, it could have an impact. There's a difference to playing massively multiplayer than just playing RPG. And this game balances the massively multiplayer online, half of an MMORPG, with the RPG side really well. It still has all the RPG elements of collections. I mean, this game has collections out the wazoo, and the collections are all fully there. So if you're a completionist, have at it because you can actually complete collections in this game. Content's not temporary or whatever. You know, you can go back to game's been around again for a decade. You can go around to content that was a decade ago. The only thing that is an exception for that is Living World Season 1. Unfortunately, uh, that's not still there, but the rewards from it are. You can still get the rewards. Um, but overall, being a completionist in this game is an attainable thing. Collections in this game, absolutely there. Storyline and story content, absolutely there. You can pick and choose what parts of the story you do and don't do if you don't like part of the story. You absolutely have all kinds of achievements, and in this game, achievement points matter. You actually get something for getting achievement points. Um, so many games have achievement points in them, but they're kind of like pointless. They're just sort of there. And here in this game, you do your achievements and you're slowly building up your account by doing so. And gradually making it stronger and stronger. And there's just so many things that are like that in this game. You can be playing any character, you can be playing an alt, and still be progressing your gameplay as a whole. And so many games separate the characters so harshly. I am so relieved ESO is finally, with their new expansion, going to make achievements account wide because it's so frustrating having that be separated that way. World of Warcraft to this day still keeps all these stupid achievements and reputations and the currency grinds separated. It's such an outdated and waste of time concept. Guild Wars 2 makes you enjoy spending your time here. And there are grinds, absolutely, in this game, but the grinds have multiple options for getting to them. You can complete all these achievements in this living world story zone, or you can go play PvP to get to this big item instead of doing the achievements in that zone. Or maybe you want that big item, but you want to go do world versus world instead. Go for it. You can do that, and you can still get the big item at the end. There's options for getting to things, and it feels good to not always feel forced to do stuff. If you're sick of doing the same old stuff all the time, you can go play a mini game or an activity or whatever it is, and there's something else, and you're still progressing your account, you're still progressing your gains, as it were, but you're not forced into a pigeonhole path. And this game does that really well. The world map in this game is insanely massive at this point, and it's only getting bigger. And it's so fun to run around and explore because it's not just massive, but each map on this massive world map, each zone map, has so much to do inside of it. The content is basically very, very, like, everywhere. It's just everywhere. It's so immersive. You're running around doing stuff and you're constantly distracted by something else exciting to do or to go see or to go get. And I'm saying that as someone who has played this game since pre-launch. It still feels that way to this day. I don't feel that way about other MMORPGs. Even the ones that I still play to this day, still am enjoying, still get expansions for, still like. There's nothing wrong with them, but they don't have the same levels of consistent excitement that Guild Wars 2 does. I wish the marketing for this game was better. I feel like it would have a million more players, and I do mean a million, if ANET, ArenaNet could just learn how to do marketing. Um, like, they really, really are terrible at marketing. It's such an underrated game. And anyone who plays it and experiences the mount system, or tries a Mesmer for the first time, or experiences, the way that the questing and the events are done, they're always just impressed. They're like, wow, how did I not ever try this before? How have I never played this? And it's always the same thing. Well, you didn't know about it because the marketing's terrible. But it's not because the game is bad. It's just so underrated. Once you've played it and you've played it a certain amount, once you've gotten basically past Living World Season 2, and you're into everything else, anything else, after a certain point, you're like, yeah, even if I take a break, I'll come back to this game. There's just something about this world that is so inviting and so immersive and so wholesome and exciting. And you actually feel yourself growing up with your character growing up as a hero. You actually feel like an adventurer. You actually feel like someone who is impactful and important to the world itself as you go through the storyline. When you're playing, you don't play and you feel like you're in freaking Skyrim and it's just you and a bunch of NPCs. You feel like it's you and NPCs who are living and actually like making activities and stuff just like in Skyrim, but at the same time there's players all over the place. And because of the way the map instances work in this game, that's a continuous thing. You're going to encounter players even in the most low population maps. There's still going to be a few players running around that you see. And that's good feeling. The other thing is the music in this game is so good. The same guy who wrote the music for Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 is the same guy who wrote the music for Skyrim. Um, and the quality of the music and the noise and the sound effects in this game are just really, for a decade old game, still so spot on. It's really impressive. Now, does the game have flaws? Absolutely. But the flaws are things that bother me more than I think would bother most people, except for the performance issues, which again, they're updating to DirectX 11 when End of Dragons comes out, and End of Dragons comes out on the 28th, so 10 days. Which means I have a lot of stuff I need to do in the game before then because I'm trying really hard to do like multiple things. But even besides that, as excited as I am to do all of that, I don't know, I really wanted to make something and say, hey, you know what? I'm having fun. And this game is still fun. and this game hasn't stopped being fun. And I don't know if I ever want it to. Like, I hope someday, even though I know it'd be crazy expensive, they just rebuild the whole world as it is, rebuild all of the same events, same mechanics, same builds, possibilities, same whatevers. Everybody gets to keep their collections, keep their stuff, and they just update the graphics and update the engine, put it on a new engine, call it good, and then just keep expanding it because this world ever expands. It's always growing. It never gets smaller because they don't take away old content. And the old content still gives you modern rewards and feels relevant even though it's old content. And unlike certain, publishing studios, you know, video game publishers, there's, for instance, Blizzard. Ian has multiple times said they will never go back to old content and fix stuff up unless it's game breaking. That once they're done with it, they're done with it. That's not how this game is. Um, I appreciate that. I appreciate the small little details and the obvious caring and attention that this game gets from its developers, and you can see how much love gets put into it. And I appreciate that they care. Anyway, I'm very glad I quit World of Warcraft. I felt like what line could a company cross that you wouldn't say that's no longer tolerable if it wasn't the line that Activision Blizzard crossed. Um, I've been playing other games and I've been enjoying that, and quite frankly, World of Warcraft is so completely outdated, and the way that they treat their players is just milking them. There's no there's no quality anymore, and they don't seem intent on creating quality. So I don't regret it at all. I've had way more fun not playing the same old boring done it a billion times crap. And quite frankly, you would think I would have that to say about this game after a decade. And yet this game keeps adding new things that are just different enough and just interesting enough and just exciting enough, and they add content way more rapidly than World of Warcraft does, or a lot of MMORPGs. They have more of a Final Fantasy 14 schedule where it's every couple months. Not as fast as BDO. BDO adds content pretty fast, but you know they have a more rapid content schedule than ESO. So yay, Guild Wars 2. I don't know what else to say. I've been having lots of fun. I'm gonna stop recording this and I'm gonna go have more fun.